probably come a little bit quicker. You're probably not as patient at points in time during the game, and you rely on your entire roster like you do during the course of the season. But there's certain guys that are probably a little bit more important, whether it's your starting pitchers or the guys that you rely on kind of more to top to middle of the order.
But as far as your experience also dealing with players and understanding who your players are, you have a better sense now of like how different guys might respond in these types of situations?
Well, guys that have had experience, the guys that haven't, then you never really know. I mean, I think you get to know guys well enough to have an idea, but until you get put in, under the fire, it's a whole different deal here. But you don't have to inspire guys to get up for games that maybe you do during the course of the season at certain periods of time. That here every game, every inning, every at bat, there's that urgency to it. So I think that's what really makes postseason special.
You've had success against the Mets this season so far, 4-2. How much can you glean from that? And also, you have a much different roster than the last time.
Right. So we should feel good about that. It does not apply, in the series. So I think all that's thrown out the window. Like you said, we have a little different roster composition here too. Some of these guys weren't here when we played them earlier in the season, and once you get to the postseason, teams are playing differently to get there. I think in our case, you try to bring that momentum with you, but it's a different ballgame now.
Given what everyone's anticipating with the quality of the starting pitching, how important might bullpens be to back in the bullpens here in the series?
No doubt, and I think our bullpen's been pitching pretty well here coming down the stretch. I think we've finally gotten to a point where we feel good about who goes where and when, especially with Josh at the back now. So, bullpens are extremely important. They're the ones that finish out the games. Very rarely do you see a complete game, let alone in the season, let alone during a postseason game. So our bullpen's going to be very important to us.
Go to Bryce Miller.
Bob, what's it like to, you did play for Buck and now you're managing against him in the playoffs. Is it baseball's circle of life in some way, or what's that like to live those two relationships?
Yeah, I also played against him in Double-A, so we're not that far off in age. He was a really young manager when I played for him, and I was probably an older player at that point in time. But it does come full circle. We played against each other, managed. He managed me, and I take a lot of what I do now was influenced by him, even though he was a younger manager at the time. I've watched him very closely over the years. We've maintained a relationship, so it's pretty cool to be in this situation. Yet once you get on the field and you're playing games, he's probably the last guy I'm thinking about. I'm trying to run my team the way I think is best suited, and he's going to be doing the same thing on his side.
You said you were influenced by him in what way?
He was the first manager that kind of explained to me why I was playing on a certain day. And I didn't get to play a ton, so it was important to me. And he let me prepare, for a particular pitcher. So he would say, okay, you're playing on this day. It might have been 2 or 3 days before, and I was able to kind of visualize and prepare for it. And I appreciated that, because as a bench player, especially back then, rosters were used a little bit differently. The bench players basically showed up, like a football player Sunday at 1. And, nowadays you're trying to get your role in bench players in there where they have the best chance to be successful.
Bob, can we get an update on Clev and Grisham?
Grish is here. I mean, he flew, I think, red eye last night. He just had a family situation he was dealing with. And Clev has passed both tests, so he will be on his way, I think, later tonight on a red eye as well.
What sort of decisions are you coming down to? 14, 12, which your pitchers
Right.
You used, Manaya, you used Stanley quite a bit, Chris Matt, where are you at?
Right. Well, we're still making those decisions. We have some time. I think we're still probably leaning towards 14 position players, 12 pitchers, but who those guys are, not sure yet.